Hello everyone, I'm LazyGrouse and today we're gonna have a look at Dan's Monogod expanded roster, which adds a bunch of units to all the Monogod factions. These units give some interesting options and allows the factions to be a bit more flexible in their playstyle or just reinforce something that they're already good at. All of the units are available in campaign of course, but there are no new buildings for these. You get them in already existing buildings. So, let's take a look at these units and we'll start with Siege. First off, they have gotten some Chaos Warriors, and I think they are a natural addition to the roster. Since they are a heavily ranged focused faction, they benefit greatly from having a sturdy front line to hold off the enemies while ranged assets deals most of the damage. Now you can choose how offensive you want your front line to be: Chaos Warriors for a sturdy unit that holds the line, or Forsaken for a front line that can dish out some great damage. They come with a sword and board for extra melee defense and a shield, great weapons for armor piercing damage, and halberd for anti-large. They also deal magical damage, which makes them great against other demons. Siege also got another variant of Chaos Knights with lances, that sacrifice some melee attack and a bunch of melee defense in exchange for doubling the charge bonus. So if you want your Chaos Knights to act more like shock cavalry instead of leaving them in sustained combat, these guys are for you. Next up we have Slaanesh, and the first unit that sticks out the most to me is the Marauder Archer of Slaanesh. They're your standard archer unit with poison arrows, and since Slaanesh lacks any missile units in the base roster, this gives some new interesting options for the faction. But they are not the only archer unit added in the mod. They also got Marauder Horse Archer, which I think is an excellent unit to the roster and fits perfectly with the playstyles of Slaanesh. At least when I play Slaanesh, there's a lot of maneuvering around the enemy army and running around them to find a good angle of attack, so a skirmish cav unit is the natural fit for a ranged unit in Slaanesh's army. These bad boys let you poke and prod the enemy and get some skirmishing before finding that moment to attack, or just get the enemy army to stop sitting around and waiting for you and make them advance on you. Their arrows are also poisoned, so you get a little bit extra combat utility. They also have a Marauder Horseman unit with slightly better combat stats but no ranged attack to act as an early game cavalry unit. Another big addition to the Slaaneshi roster is the Chaos Warriors, which gives them the sturdy front line same as Siege, but since they don't have the strong ranged option of Siege, they'll fill a slightly different role in the Slaaneshi army. They are the anvil in an army made almost entirely of hammers. Since the Slaanesh roster is filled with fast units with good charge bonus and the trait Devastating Flanker, but don't really have a sturdy front line, so you kind of had to use hammer and hammer instead of hammer and anvil. So they're a great addition to give you the option to get a really good unit to act as anvil in your army full of hammers. They come with sword and board for more defense and shield, great weapons for AP, and halberds for anti-large, and fittingly they all have poison attacks. They also get Chaos Knights, which gives them a heavily armored cavalry choice that comes both as the more defensive base variant and with lances if you want the shock cavalry variant. Next we have Khorne, and they got Chaos Warriors great weapons, and they already have Chaos Warriors, but they were missing the great weapons variant, so this is just completing the set. They also got both Chaos Knight variants, base and with lances, and they do fit into the roster since Khorne have a lot of heavily armored elite cav, but they do have to compete with the Blood Crushers and Skull Crushers since they fill a similar role. That's not to say that they're the same, so it's nice to just have the option even if they're similar. Next we have the Blood Chariots of Khorne, which are a chariot unit pulled by juggernauts and with a crew of bloodletters. They are heavily armored and have a huge charge bonus, and with anti-infantry, magic attacks and good AP means that they're excellent against infantry unit whether they're demon or mortal. And then you have the Chosen, which fits right into the current roster since the base roster have Chaos Warriors as its backbone, and the Chosen is the most elite among Chaos Warriors blessed by Khorne, so it makes sense to have them in the roster. And as you would expect, they have much better stats than the Chaos Warriors, but fewer entities in the units. They can have dual weapons for anti-infantry, great weapons for AP, and halberds for anti-large. And last they got Bloodthirsters of Unfettered Fury, which is basically just a Bloodthirster with slightly higher melee attack, melee defense, and charge bonus. But they also have Frenzy, which I always found strange that Bloodthirsters didn't have Frenzy, because come on, it's a Bloodthirster! The model also got a one-handed axe and a whip like the Exalted Bloodthirster. And last we have Nurgle. They're the only Monogod faction that don't get any Warriors of Chaos, they instead get Fanatics of Nurgle, and the model is exactly how I would imagine someone who got a little bit too into Nurgle worship would look like. They're an early game tar pit unit, and they have absolutely terrible stats, but they have the highest health pool in Nurgle's roster, and with Unbreakable, they take a long time to kill. They also get Plague Chariots of Nurgle, which I absolutely love. It's a chariot unit that is pulled by a beast of Nurgle, so they have about a 40 speed, so they're perfectly in flavor for a Nurgle chariot, and even though they have a really slow speed for a chariot, they still have a great charge bonus, so they do some really good work once they get a charge into a unit of infantry. Next we have the Plague Bringers of Nurgle, which are a slightly stronger variant of Plague Drones with Vanguard. The better stats is really nice, since in my experience you would just get plague drones with death head instead of normal plague drones, so with the addition of plague bringers there's a choice to be made if you want to have a dedicated flying rear charger or sacrifice some combat stats for a ranged attack. Both are now a reasonable option. And finally, do your Great Unclean Ones ever get jealous of Kuga's Palanquin? Well, Nurgle got a variant of Great Unclean Ones on a Palanquin. This gives them the artillery attack that Kugath have at the cost of a little bit of speed. But who needs speed when you can ride in style? And that's all the units added in Dan's Monogod Roster expansion. It's a great mod if you want some extra options when playing as the Chaos factions, or if you want to fight some more varied armies when fighting against them. So if you want to check out the mod, I'll add a link to the Steam page in the description down below. But the mod is still in beta, so keep that in mind since the balance can be a little bit off. But thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider leaving a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!